Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ampere Developer Impact. I have the great pleasure today of being joined by Alexandra Settle, Product Manager for SUSE Virtualization. And today we're going to talk about the recent release of SUSE Virtualization and its general availability on Arm64. So, hello, Alex. Welcome, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you, very briefly, for those who are unfamiliar with it, can you describe what is SUSE Virtualization? How does it relate to Harvester? I know there's an open source project, Harvester, that is based on it. And can you clarify why somebody would want to use it?
Yeah, sure. So Harvester itself, if you're getting the nice big marketing terms, is essentially running Kubernetes and VMs on top of Harvester. So it's a modern hyper-converged infrastructure solution, HCI. It's built specifically for bare metal servers, and it has a whole bunch of open source technologies, including Linux, KVM, Kubernetes, KubeVirt, and Longhorn. It's primarily designed for users looking for a flexible solution to run cloud native and virtual machine workloads in the data center and at the edge. So it's a little bit of like, how do I jump from that traditional virtual machine workloads, which everyone is so familiar with, and get a little bit more involved in that cloud native infrastructure sphere moving forward. So Harvester has positioned itself nice in the middle. I'd just like to share a slide, Dave, if you wouldn't mind potting it up for me real quick. So that's a little bit about what Harvester is, but sort of how does Harvester fit into the SUSE ecosystem? It's our project. It's our open source upstream project that builds SUSE Virtualization. As you can see here, SUSE is very dedicated to the open source world. So we have a number of projects within what we call our enterprise container management organization. And yeah. Hold on one second. Let me just switch to the next slide. Perfect. And this is our SUSE Rancher suite. So at the head here, you have our SUSE Rancher Prime built on Rancher Manager, SUSE Storage, which is Longhorn, SUSE Security, NuVector, Observability, formerly StackState, and our application collection. This is all built on SUSE Virtualization, SUSE Linux Micro, and our own Kubernetes distributions, RKE2 and K3S. But today, we're going to focus on that bottom tier there, SUSE Virtualization. Harvester.
So SUSE Virtualization is running underneath SUSE Kubernetes engine. I thought it was managing virtual machines as part of Kubernetes, as a Kubernetes workload. Did I misunderstand?
Yeah, not at all. So basically, this is, for all intents and purposes, a lovely slide that explains how our suite is built. But if you're talking about the Harvester architecture itself, we're looking at a Linux operating system that's at the base. Then that's just built on top of Kubernetes. So that's, for us, that's RKE2. And it's basically is a Harvester is a HCI solution with Kubernetes under the hood, if that makes sense. Okay. So then we provide virtualization management with KubeVirt, storage management with Longhorn, and then observability with Grafana and Prometheus at this time. Right. So this is our SUSE Rancher suite, but we'll be talking about SUSE Virtualization today.
So in a single application pane of glass, for want of a better phrase, you've got your containers, you've got your storage, you've got your virtualization, you've got your security, all wrapped up into one.
Absolutely. That's what's important about our SUSE Cloud Native, where, as I said, it's complete and simplified. It's a cloud native platform for modern enterprises, as written on the screen.
But I was under the impression, historically, that Kubernetes was for containers. Kubernetes manages VMs now?
So this is sort of where we're talking a little bit about that modernization journey and what SUSE Virtualization actually provides as a hyper-converged infrastructure platform. So Kubernetes is containers, but containers is considered to be the future. What we have is a huge amount, like for the last 30 years plus, companies, users have all invested in the use of virtual machines. And virtual machines definitely still have their place in the modern environments today. However, people need, like, space is a commodity. We need to move forward. We need to be using lightweight. We need things to be more performant. We need more stability, and containers is that way. So how do we get there? And SUSE Virtualization offers that modernization leaping platform. So we're saying, hey, you can get to containers, or you can do both. You can play around, but you need to get there somehow. And it's not just as simple as taking a virtual machine and saying, great, we'll take everything that's on this and throwing it into a container. It's a process. So SUSE Virtualization stays nicely in that middle.
Okay, so you've described how basically SUSE virtualization allows people to run kind of more legacy virtual machine type workloads in the same framework as they're running modern container workloads. So do you see it as kind of uh, easing the path to application modernization in the cloud? Is that is that how you describe the role of SUSE virtualization?
I describe it as one of the roles of SUSE virtualization, definitely. With the market at the moment, we're seeing obviously massive changes in the virtual machine world and how those virtual machines are not only managed, but who provides them and the cost benefit analysis. And customers are coming to us and they're saying, hey, can you help me? I don't necessarily want to be on this platform anymore. Where do I go? How do I make this work?
Right.
And so we've been partnering with a number of migration-based partners who can help people migrate their legacy virtual machines over to us, where we can either set them up with new virtual machines and say, okay, let's work through this new ecosystem, introduce you to Kubernetes and cloud native, and then hopefully migrate over to that container world. And that's where we're sort of putting our, so to speak, eggs in our basket at the moment, because what we're really seeing is that need for customers who want more, they want to modernize, and they just feel a little bit stuck. So we're talking a lot about modernization at the moment here, Dave. And I guess I just want to understand a little bit more about, where does Ampere see itself in a market that's on a cloud native modernization journey? Ampere and SUSE have partnered together for multiple years. So how can you help us? Where do you see yourself fitting in?
Well, that's a really interesting question. Thank you very much. I would say one of the founding principles of Ampere, one of the reasons why the company was created, was because we've been building this modern cloud infrastructure on a platform that's been around for 40 years and hasn't really changed very much. And so we wanted to design a silicon product from the ground up for the needs of the cloud. So Ampere processors, I think, are feeding very much into that journey to the cloud, journey to modernization, where you talk about, we give people a lot of cores, and those are single-threaded cores. So you're getting a whole core when you get a virtual CPU that's Ampere-based, rather than getting half of a core with hyper-threading, as you do on x86 CPUs. Plus, one of the biggest constraints of the cloud right now is, first, real estate, second, power, electricity, and third, heating, tightly related to the second. And so we designed these CPUs from the ground up to be energy efficient, to run cool, and to give, again, many more cores per socket, therefore many more cores per rack, and really allow the compute of the modern cloud to scale without really having to scale the real estate that it's housed in, or the power that it consumes. So yeah, I see it as very much a symbiotic relationship with application modernization that's happening at the same time. And to that point, you recently added ARM64 support for SUSE virtualization.
We sure did.
I think that's a very nice kind of segue into, can you tell me how that came about? How long has it been on your roadmap? How long has Harvester supported ARM64? One of the things that I think is important to emphasize in open source projects is there's a difference between the technical enablement that happens in a community and then the product enablement and support of that. Can you tell me how long it's been on the roadmap? How long has Harvester supported ARM64, and then how did you come to decide to support SUSE virtualization on ARM64?
Yeah,
and how we work
absolutely.
Together to do it?
Absolutely. So I think what's really exciting, this is something that we found really exciting, I should say. And we've been really looking forward to doing this for quite some time. So as of our 1.3 release, which came out last year, we have been supporting ARM64 builds in the sense of a technical preview. So technical preview for us is essentially go for it, test it, deploy at production at your own risk. However, we were really confident that things were working nicely, and we've been working with a number of different stakeholders to test, including Ampere. And Ampere was obviously very pivotal in that process by very gratefully providing us with a couple of servers to make sure that our QA team was able to run through and test everything to a high standard. This has, generally speaking, has been on the whole Rancher roadmap for a long time. We're noticing, as to your point earlier, that customers are wanting more with regards to performance. They want a cheaper alternative as well. They want things to be greener. And ARM is becoming that number one choice, right? It's one of the few on the market. Apple Mac changing over to the M1 chips is a key example of how strong that push is currently being, and massive companies are adopting. We're just following suit and coming up behind, and I think it's an amazing step forward for Harvester. So we have had it supported in the community. Well, we have had it, technical preview in the community since at least last year for our 1.3. And excitingly, we were able to announce it is now generally available with support as of our 1.5 release, which came out last month. Our community release, which is the 1.50, came out at the end of May. And we're looking forward to producing our prime release, which is our enterprise-grade SUSE Virtualization offering at the end of June.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been a long journey, and we've enjoyed working with SUSE to make sure, as you say, that the hardware was available. You mentioned price. I did not mention price earlier. One of the reasons why the ARM instances on clouds are cheaper is because, as we provide many more cores, your cloud service provider can rent them cheaper. So saving money is one of the really big drivers for ARM adoption, I think, across all of the cloud service providers. And one of the reasons why vendors like SUSE are embracing it, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the sort of going back to our early discussion as to why would customers choose Harvester as a modernization choice is cost as well. I think we've got a lot of big players in the market who are saying, hey, we can provide virtualization support with your, virtual machines. But the reality is you could come over here, we can provide you with not only an open source solution, but we can also do it on ARM now. Right. So there's a lot of great benefits here, and I'm very excited to see how this goes in the next couple of years. I'm a big big ARM boy fan.
Well, what's next for the ARM64 support journey of the Rancher portfolio and at SUSE? What's coming?
Great question. So at the moment, we have several products that already support ARM64 builds. So that would be like Longhorn, which is our SUSE storage product, now Harvester, SUSE Virtualization. The next big ticket is obviously SUSE Rancher Prime, Rancher Manager, which will be coming, I believe, in FY25. So really looking forward to that. There's been a massive push from our community on making sure that has ARM support. So,
okay. And Rancher Manager is the cluster manager that can manage multiple Kubernetes clusters and the workloads running on them. Is that correct?
You got it. You're better than I at this.
So now that SUSE Virtualization supports ARM64, as you mentioned, Harvester has supported as a tech preview for about a year. Are you looking for community feedback, early adopters? How can people try this out? How can they get started with it?
Absolutely. As an open source project, we're always looking for people to jump in, dive, play around, figure it out, and provide us with that feedback. I think what you guys will probably find as well is that every environment is so unique. You may think you have the most standard environment in the world, but that's not always the case. Everything is a little bit different. Your networking, your storage, your operating system, everything. So we're looking forward to having people dive in, get interested, get excited, and start having play around and contributing. The Harvester community is open. The team is always, from the SUSE side, the team is always willing to chat and figure out what's going on. We have a very active Slack channel as well in the Rancher users workspace. If you go into the workspace, you can find two different channels. There's Harvester and Harvester Dev. I'd highly recommend jumping into the Harvester channel. It's fairly active, lots of questions.
Getting interested is good. Well, Alex, thank you very much for joining me today. This has been a pleasure, and
thank you for having me.
I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And thank everybody who is watching this. Thank you all for watching along with the Ampere Developer Impact. Goodbye.
Bye.